Hello, you. It's me. My cat is wanting to play so much right now. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully that'll hold her. She she loves playing fetch. Yes, you do. Okay, so I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was regarding night convos. And they were talking about some things that had happened while Gypsy was in prison. And it really is a terrible thing to think about, because as hearing from Becca Scoop's video, she's talking about a People article where Gypsy talks about having a second child. So we'll get to that in a minute. Firstly, Gypsy had been put into protective custody, according to an inmate, because a new inmate had arrived who had unalived their child. And Gypsy said, I guess it was during their lunchtime, that the child probably deserved it because the mother didn't want it. And I could see why she'd be put in protective custody. But did she really think that? Was that really her thoughts? And not only that, but apparently she spent a lot of time bragging about what she did with her mother. But wait, I thought she didn't do anything with her mother. I thought Nick did everything. Uh-huh. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And here's a person who is not remorseful at all, saying horrible, terrible things. Apparently she was put into custody a few times while in prison, where they put them off into a separate area so that they don't get their ass kicked. Apparently she's stirred up a lot of things like that. Just disgusting, horrible behavior. So disgusting that even inmates at a prison didn't like what she had to say. Think about that for a minute. Although I have long heard that anybody who hurts a child or attempts to hurt a child has to be put in protective custody many times, because even criminals don't like that. You don't hurt children. Well, apparently, I mean, we all know about her, when her fictional child reaches 13 years of age. We've all heard about that she would be given to her father because he's in charge. Well, fictional father. He's not the father of Aurora, the baby. So there's that. But having her saying all these things that are so disgusting that collectively, because it's not just me, are very concerned for that child, because she thinks it's okay to hurt a child because you don't want them. She thinks it's okay to get rid of somebody because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing anymore. They're not useful anymore, like she did her mother. And this person is talking about having a second child? Are you kidding me? I mean, seriously, pause for a moment. This person who has said so many disgusting things and actually murdered her mother, someone related to her directly, she's now got the audacity to talk about having a second child. And I thought she was going to have a second child through surrogacy, but now she's talking about IVF or IBF. I can't remember what it's called. I apologize. But it's where they take her eggs and take Ken's little swimmers and put them together, and they start a child, and then those children, they could pick which one they want. Becca Scoop said, like designer kids, and essentially that's what it is. She wants, Gypsy, that is, specifically wants to have a boy, and wants to make sure that the child doesn't have the deletion, the chromosomal deletion that she has. Now that part I can understand. You wouldn't necessarily want to pass that on to another child. Because we all know, whether Gypsy wants to admit it or not, she was a very sick child. So I could understand it. To me, that's a little too high tech for me, but I can understand it. If you want to make sure the baby is healthy, sure, do that. But one, doesn't it cost a fortune to do that? Isn't it something like $175,000? I thought she was broke. I thought she didn't have any money. I thought, her and Ken were scrimping and saving. That's why they were selling things, and she was making art so she could make enough money to feed her baby. What the fuck is she gonna do, getting another baby through the most expensive process possible? It's insane to me. Insane. And the designer baby part doesn't really bother me too much, because I can understand to some degree, if you can afford to do that to ensure that you have a healthy baby. Yeah, I could kind of see that. Although, she's also picking the gender of the child. Oh, it's got to be a boy, because I want a boy. It's always what Gypsy wants. Although I guess Ken, maybe he wants that too. I don't know. I mean, he's still in it with her, I guess. But I thought it was, the whole point of a surrogate is because it's hard for her to carry the child, and she couldn't carry Aurora to term, although Aurora apparently was a healthy child when born, even though she was born a month early. So they said. So why wouldn't they have a surrogate with her egg, his swimmers put together, and then put it into another person that can carry it well? I don't know. I don't know. But again, all of this is very expensive stuff. How is she affording this if she's so broke? I'm so sick of the bullshit. And how is she allowed to have children in the first place when all she wants to do is give her children's V card to the master, or it's okay to I hate saying the word kill, but it's okay to do that to a child, to harm a child, because you don't want them, because they deserve it. I mean, what has she learned? Why is she allowed to walk this earth free? It just bugs me so much, because it's putting Aurora, if she is a real baby, it's putting her life in danger. Although I did see the video of Aurora. It's supposed to be a new video of Aurora the baby, who is, someone said it was like army crawling to the phone because she heard Miss Rachel, I think it is. And look, I'm happy that if that is really Aurora the baby, that she's able to move that much on her own. But she, one, in that video, did not look like she's a 9-month-old baby. And two, at 9 months old, you should be able to move a lot more than that. You should crawl like a champ. Now, again, I understand that babies hit milestones at different times, and there are things that can get in the way of their development, so it takes a little longer. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anything negative. It's just concerning. Everything that Gypsy puts out and talks about is always very concerning, because one, either we don't get the whole story, or two, it's just a big bullshit story. And it concerns me because a 9-month-old child I wouldn't think would be that small. And she claims that the baby is like 20 pounds, 28 inches. Now, I could believe that about the child that she was feeding with a bottle, because that was, like I said, my little chubby monkey's adorable. But that little tiny baby trying so hard to crawl, that wasn't a little chubby monkey. She did not look like she was 28 inches and 20 pounds. She looked very small. And I would imagine those kind of moves, struggling to crawl and all that, trying really hard. But I could see that at like a 5-month-old baby, 6-month-old baby, but 9 months old? I'm really concerned for the development of that child. And Gypsy, oh, she's healthy, she's perfect, she's everything, she's growing, she's wonderful, she's so great. I think Gypsy's lying. Or there's just no baby. Because that baby did not look 9 months old, and that baby should, in my opinion, if it's a healthy, normal child, it should be crawling like a champ. It should be climbing up on things and trying to walk. Many of you told me that your children walked at 9 months. Now, my child, like I said, she kind of ran across the room at 9 months and didn't actually start walking normally until after her first birthday. So, was she delayed? I don't know. I don't think so. The doctor, I took her to a doctor regularly, always said she looked happy, she looked healthy, good weight, very bubbly and happy and all that stuff. So I never worried about any of that. But Gypsy, the baby doesn't look, it looks so small when she's in the playpen with Gypsy and without. The baby just looks so small and unable to hit those milestones of just being able to crawl. It is very important, psychologically speaking, that a baby learns to crawl before they learn to walk. Now, some babies just go straight to walking, which is fine, but because, everybody's different, everybody develops differently. But generally speaking, I'm speaking just generally speaking, a baby's mental health works better when they crawl and then they walk. They don't skip anything. They crawl and then walk. In fact, there were a few scientific studies with children who had certain disabilities. If they learned to crawl well, it helped develop their minds. It's a very interesting study. So she should be crawling at least, unless there's a reason why she's not. And she seemed to have some difficulty with her legs. My question is, because Gypsy swore she doesn't have the microdeletion issue, but the microdeletion issue would explain why her legs at 9 months would be weakened and maybe not be able to crawl. That would give a good reason as to why. But Gypsy doesn't give us that. So if this is just a regular everyday baby, something's wrong. That child needs to go to a doctor and they need to find out what's happening. Now, Gypsy doesn't have to say if there's issues with her child, but stop saying this bullshit. Oh, my child is perfectly healthy. In fact, I'm surprised she hasn't pushed the idea that there are things wrong with her child, because there's a lot of people on the internet, on TikTok, on YouTube and all, who show the progression of their children who do have disabilities and how they're developing and how they're working and what they can and can't do and what they still might be able to do as they grow older, etc. And I have to say, I love watching some of these videos, especially the children who have autism or have specific muscular issues. I find it really interesting, and it fills my heart when I see them, hitting a milestone that maybe they didn't think they could. And it's beautiful. And I love it. I admit it. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I just want them to do well. And they don't always do well. But they talk about those things. They talk about things that didn't work and new things they're going to try and all that. I love that. And I'm surprised that she's not doing that with Aurora, because if Aurora has some kind of disability or disabilities that are preventing her from hitting her milestones in a timely fashion, I mean, that could be actually interesting. And maybe she would seem more interesting and believable. But, that's not in her plan. She can't do that because that's not how things are supposed to look. Everything is supposed to look perfect. Her family is supposed to look perfect. Her wonderful Kenny and her beautiful Aurora, and now working on child number 2, which shouldn't happen because you just know those children are going to be abused. I mean, the one benefit of her having a second child is for the children's sake, because they can hold on to each other when things go south. When things go wrong, they will have each other to cling to, hopefully, and that will bring them closer together, which is a bonus, I would imagine. But for her to have more children, for her to talk to People magazine, I think she did 2 articles. And I know at least one of them was about having a second child. How disgusting and despicable is this woman? She's not sorry for what she's done. She uses her daughter as an accessory instead of making her the everything, and Gypsy coming second best. I guess you don't have to go that far, but any mother out there, their children always come first, no matter what. And with Gypsy, like I said, her daughter's an accessory. But now she wants a second one. What the fuck is going on? How is this allowed? It just pisses me off so much. I mean, she knows, what is her name? Something more. The woman who helped write Gypsy's book. The one who is the daughter of a serial killer. How does she feel about that? You think her and Gypsy would have talked about it before any kids were in play? Do I think that Gypsy is just going to never do anything again? Never going to hurt anyone again? Never going to murder anyone again? I mean, odds are she probably will. And who's going to carry that burden? It's going to be Aurora the baby. And if she has a brother, they're going to carry it off. They're going to carry it for her. She doesn't care. It doesn't matter to her. And Ken, I don't think it matters to him either. He's as big a shit as Gypsy is. But anyway, those were things that I was thinking about today. And I just... saying such terrible things about children and wanting to do such terrible things about children, and then actually having children and have that not taken away, and planning a second child. Fuck that shit. How does that happen? Poor little innocent, broke, abused baby Gypsy. It's all about her. It's all her shit show. And it's gonna go the way she wants, whether you like it or not. I don't like it. Anyway, thank you for listening. And that's all I've got to say.